So we've just gotten done building our new LDAP instance, and all the binaries are built. Let's go through an example of just how to fire it up real quick. So our destination, our installed destination, was this directory here, this instance-v13 directory. You can see that I've already downloaded the files that I talked about on the web page, and I've copied them into the right locations. So like if we look at our OpenLDAP, I've got my dbconfig file there. Or if we look at OpenLDAP schema, you'll see that I've got the local schema file copied in place. This is the one that has all the dcsi custom attributes and object classes in it. So we should be good to go. Now the first thing we have to do is build a fresh database instance, and we're going to do that using this initial.ldif file. So let's go to var. Let's first of all get our runtime environment. So now you can see we're using the binaries that came from our install directory, which is good. So we go into var OpenLDAP. Everything's fresh and clean. Just run slap add. So what I'm doing is telling slap add, here's the slapdconfig file, and here's the initial LDIF I want you to use to build my database. And it very quickly just creates the database. Now we've got some simple DB files. And let's go ahead and start up the binary, make sure it starts. Hey, looky there, we have a slapd server running on port 389. So next, let's come over here to Directory Studio, and we're going to create a new connection. We'll call it mycompany.com and localhost. The reason I chose mycompany.com is just that that's what the LDAP database is built with. If you look at the initial LDAP file, you'll see that that's the root. And if we look in OpenLDAP slapd.conf, you'll see that it's already customized as well, so it knows that the base DN for the database, where is it? I think I went past it. There it is. So the suffix is mycompany.com, and here's our root DN. That's who we're going to log in as, and then the password's right here. And of course, in a production environment, you're going to want to change all of this, obviously. So we'll check the authentication. Good, I typed it right. Next. And you can change some of these defaults if you want. I prefer to have a larger count limit. My LDAP server is by default. I let them return larger data sets. And then in the other thing that I change in Directory Studio is right here. I usually come in and change it so that this left-hand panel shows RDN values, not just the RDN. So here we are. Here's our LDAP server. You can see that right now it has one record for the manager account, and then it has this dcsi branch. And underneath there we have servers, and we have applications, contacts, and platforms. And obviously you can put whatever you want in your own LDAP server. This is just some quick examples that I stuck in there. So let's create a new server. You can see this branch is empty, so let's create a new server. We're going to make a new entry. Yep, that's the base that we want, except that we don't want to use this as a template. We want to create a new one from scratch. So we'll come in here. We want to create a dcsi server. And we're going to say dcsi server name. is equal to my server. Let's make it all lowercase. So here we are, a brand new record. If I click on finish, it'll create it. We could also do some other things, like we could say new attribute and dcsi platform. The platform is, it'll say, yeah, what do you want to set it to? Now I could type in the distinguished name for this attribute, but that's painful. What I usually do is I browse, I go to dcsi platforms, and I pick one from one of my already pre-populated platforms. I didn't do it. Let's do it after we create the record then. I'm running a really old version of Directory Studio too. The newer version is quite a bit better. So, new attribute. Next, finish. And it has it in our history. We'll just pick it out of there. I could have browsed for it again too. There it is. So let's do another new attribute. We'll say applications. And you notice that one of the things that it brought up was app name. This is actually not what we're looking for the application name. What we want is hosted application. And I'll show you why in a second. Oops, there we go, hosted application. And so we'll pick that. It's going to ask us, this is another attribute that requires a DN. So we're going to browse to it. And this time we'll pick up applications. We'll call it an internal DNS server, since that's the only one that I've got in our current example set here. There we are. And then we'll stick in, well, let's put in a host note for it, dcsi host notes. Now most of the application attributes in dcsi are just free-form text, and you can put whatever the heck you want in there. Okay, well, let me select it. I think the recording software is messing with it. Can I select it with edit? Yeah, let's do that. So in host notes, I would usually put in things like this is a DNS server, so maybe I would put in the directory where the logs for the DNS server exist, or the script that we use to start and stop the DNS server, or any kind of note that I think might be useful to somebody who's on call who gets a page for this system. But again, it's free-form text most of the time. You can just put in whatever the heck you want. The searches are generally case insensitive, so use the attributes however you like. So let's say one of the cool things about LDAP is that you can have multiple values for most of these attributes, in our case for all of them. So let's say that this was doing more than just DNS. Maybe it was also doing DHCP. So let's create a new application, and rather than creating a whole new record from scratch, we'll use this one as a template. So we'll say new entry. We're going to create a new one using this as a template. So we'll say next, and this time we'll say DHCP. Okay. Now you'll notice that because we're using it as a template, it's already pre-populated a bunch of other stuff in here for us. So the application owner, for instance, which is a DN pointing to the LDAP record for the person who owns it, or the emergency contact, which could be, it's also a distinguished name, but it could point to an individual, but in this case I have a contact record specified for like a group. So we'll just select that. Yep. And then we'll come down here to my server, and we'll say hosted application. This time, instead of saying new attribute, let's do new value. and we'll browse to it. And there it is. And maybe we'll also add in another new value for dcsi host notes. So I mean, you can put in however many host notes you want. We often put in links to documents, links to web pages that show build notes. Everything that you had to do after the Kickstart build was done to customize the server and bring it on into production, to bring it online. You'll notice that the list of attributes that we have is pretty lengthy. We've got attributes for a whole pile of things. What machine is the backup server? The authentication type, is it using NIS? And again, this is free-form text, so you can use whatever scheme you want. In our case, we have, if the server is doing NIS authentication, it just says NIS : and the domain name. If it's just using the local etc password file, we just say local, auth type is local. But you can set it to whatever you want. You might have some information about the hardware itself. You could put in, we always put in things like who's the emergency contact, what physical footprint it's in, what physical location it's in. There's all sorts of things that you can put in here. The operating system, the serial number, asset tags, if you guys have asset tags, whatever you want. And of course, you can always, if you really wanted to, you could just take what I did in my schema as a springboard, make your own schema and add the kinds of things that you care about. If you don't like that the platform is a distinguished name that points to a record, and you'd rather just have it be a free-form text field, change it. That's the beauty of open source. You can make it do whatever the heck you want.